Hi everyone and welcome to the Sack Race Weekly episode 2. I'm Jack from the Sack Race and I'll be joined by Simon from Empty Seats today. We've got 3 topics for you. We're going to look at the future of Gareth Southgate. There's been reports that Wayne Rooney could take over at Derby, and then we're going to run through the 2 vacancies at Barnsley and at Salford. But before we get into it, if you like our manager content, please do like and subscribe this video. Head over to the Sack Race for all your content and news, and also check us out on Twitter at the Sack Race. Simon, welcome. If we can start off with the future of Gareth Southgate, he seems to be under pressure like never before. People are questioning his lineups, his subs, the discipline of the whole squad's come under pressure. There's more of a conservative nature to England's play now. It's more pragmatic than panache. But saying that, we did lose for the first time in about a year, and it was because we had 10 men for the majority of the game. We've just beaten Belgium, but has it got to the point now where his job is in doubt?
With England, as always, people are very reactionary. One bad result, as you saw last night, and then people throw all their toys out the pram and forget what Gareth Southgate's done for England over the last 3 years since he's had the job. I mean, when he took over from Sam Allardyce, who is an absolute shambles, and then Roy Hodgson was also a shambles, and then Fabio Capello was a shambles. It's been 10 years of absolutely horrendous football for England, and this England team is the most exciting that I've ever seen in my lifetime. There's so much quality, and people are kicking off about maybe 1 or 2 decisions, particularly Grealish not playing. But Grealish hasn't had a cap before now, and he doesn't really fit the system Southgate's trying to play. If you look at the England team from last night, how we ended up after the red card, then we had an Aston Villa player and a Wolves player at centre-back. We had a West Ham player and a Leeds player in central midfield. That is something we would just never ever see under any other England manager. There's no big club bias anymore. I mean, if Gareth Southgate was picking Jesse Lingard still for Man United, then we'd be where we were 5 years ago. But he's picking all these players from all these different clubs, all these young players, and yes, he's still got a bit to learn tactically, but what he's done for England has been absolutely magnificent. Reached semi-finals of a World Cup 2 years ago. We're going to see how we do at the Euros next summer. If we reach the semis again, that's another success in my opinion. And you've got to say he's turned this England side around, and we're actually looking like a good team at the moment.
Absolutely love that positivity. With that in mind, is he the man to lead England to glory next summer? Can he do it? If the tournament goes ahead, that is.
Definitely don't want him sacked. I definitely don't think anyone else would do a better job at the moment. I saw Eddie Howe's name being thrown around last night, but he wouldn't do a better job than Gareth Southgate is with the senior side at the moment. I've already said before, I think Eddie Howe should be the under-21 manager and replace A.D. Boothroyd, but I think Southgate is working on a system. He's got good players at his disposal in the attacking third. He's got a decent looking back line. He's playing 5 at the back now because the centre-backs are a little bit dodgy. Harry Maguire, particularly after last night. And Jordan Pickford, for all the criticism Pickford's received, he hasn't made a mistake for England, I don't think. I can't remember Pickford making a mistake for England, and if he does, he'll probably be dropped.
Right, and we're going to move on now to the second part. Wayne Rooney. There's been reports by The Sun that he's going to take over at Derby. Philip Cocu's under pressure after a slow start to the season. Apparently, if Derby lose to Watford on Friday, he's gone and Rooney's going to be upgraded to the top job. He hasn't got his coaching badges, so he will need to bring in an experienced number 2. Former Derby boss John Gregory's been linked, as has Mike Phelan, who's currently working at Man United. So I'm not sure if he's going to switch jobs. First of all, Cocu's been there for just over a year now. It was a massive appointment considering what he'd done in the managerial arena. What do you make of his time so far at Derby?
It's been what I expected, and I mean that in quite an underwhelming sense, I think. I didn't expect Derby to be in the playoffs when he took charge. I thought they'd be in that kind of 6th to 12th region of teams, which is still a very good team in the Championship, given the quality in that league at the moment. But for me, Cocu, he's doing what I expected him to do at Derby, so I've got no real criticism of him at the moment. I mean, if you look to the back end of last season, I think they got 3 or 4 wins in a row, and then they lost 4 games in a row before winning their final game at Birmingham. And he got a bit of criticism during those 4 wins, but I believe they were against Leeds, West Brom, Brentford and Cardiff. So they're 4 of the 5 strongest teams in the league last year. They all lost against them, but then he beat the teams he probably should have beaten, which is why they finished where they finished. At the start of this season, obviously he's only had 1 win from his opening few games, and that was against Norwich last time out. But I think, as you touched on, Jack, why would they be looking to get rid of him after he's just got going this season with his best result of the season, a 1-0 away win against Norwich? I know a few of the other results are below par, but that performance and the win against Norwich with that Rooney free kick was exceptional and a really good result. So I think to say they're going to sack him after a Watford defeat, which I think we'd all expect Watford to beat Derby this weekend, then that's a bit harsh in my opinion.
The thing is with Derby is we've seen they love appointing a big name manager with or without experience. We've seen Frank Lampard get the job. We've had Steve McLaren over the years, and we've just seen Nottingham Forest, their fierce rivals of course, get rid of their own manager, Sabri Lamouchi, and replace him with Chris Hughton, who's finally returned. We touched on this in the last episode. Just say in a scenario Derby do get rid of Cocu, what can we expect from Wayne Rooney, the manager? Because he's played under Fergie, Van Gaal, a load of England managers. What would you expect from Rooney in the dugout?
I think it's a very good point you've just made, but I'd also think Steve McLaren is probably smiling his head off at home at the moment after you've just called him a big name and thrown him in with a couple of those other Derby managers. He'll be absolutely buzzing with that. Wayne Rooney, I think, is very difficult to judge. I mean, I think Derby would hope it would be a similar appointment to the one they got with Frank Lampard, but I think Frank Lampard, if you judge him as a player compared to Wayne Rooney, he's always seemed quite senior in the dressing room, a leader, a real model professional. Wayne Rooney, on the other hand, has not been the model professional throughout his career, has he? He's had red card issues, he's had issues with his temperament on the pitch, and then he's had the off the field issues as well that have been all across the media. Whether he's matured a lot in the last few years, I think he's got to, qualify himself as a manager first, do all of his coaching badges, and then maybe come back to this job. It'll be a huge risk for Derby, and I don't think it would end well. I certainly don't think Wayne Rooney would do a better job than Cocu is at the moment. I certainly don't think Wayne Rooney would lead Derby to a top half finish in the Championship either.
So for now, you're very much Cocu in. I had to phrase that right.
I'm very much Cocu in, at least for the next month or so. Yeah, that's right.
Fantastic. Right, Simon, we've already spoken about these vacancies before at Salford and Barnsley, but we're going to now give everyone a little update. First of all, at Salford, who surprisingly sacked Graham Alexander on Monday. We're just going to run through the latest odds now. We've got Roy Keane as the odds-on favourite, 1-2. Warren Joyce, 4-1. We've got Sam Allardyce, who came in out of nowhere at 10-1. Paul Cook, 10-1. Danny Cowley, 10-1. Paul Scholes, 12-1. And I've just seen now, I've not noticed this before, Paddy Power, those were all with Bet Victor, but Paddy Power have got Sir Alex Ferguson at 20-1. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at 50-1. I mean, some exceptional odds here. But if we could be a bit more realistic, Roy Keane, is it looking a bit more likely that he's going to get the job?
I think so. As these odds develop, you usually get some shock names fire their way to the top of the betting. But Roy Keane's there or thereabouts, isn't he? And it makes a lot of sense for a lot of reasons. I don't know if people are putting 2 and 2 together with the links with the Manchester United connection and the owners, and then he's got a few pounds on him at the moment. So it's difficult to judge Roy Keane. I'm not too sure he would be a success at Salford. Is it too early to say that? I think there's a lot of other better managers in the list they'd be better off going for. And I think when Ole Gunnar Solskjaer eventually gets sacked by Man United, he'll end up at Salford.
I'm very much in favour of the Cowleys. I'd love to see them return to management. I thought what they did with Lincoln was absolutely brilliant. I thought they did a very good job at Huddersfield too. Was shocked when they left in the penultimate game. I think it was over transfers. But it's a big project that I think they would love. I know we've spoken before about them stepping down a couple of leagues, but the club are ambitious, and I think with the right money, the right investment, I think the Cowleys could come over. Have you had any more thought about who you'd like to see get the job?
I think you're probably along the right lines. I think the best fit for Salford, and you could see it working, would be the Cowleys. I think they'd expect quite a big wage to go back down to League Two, having been in the Championship in their most recent job, and of course won double promotion with Lincoln as well in recent years. But you're right, with Salford, they've got money to spend. They're ambitious, they're ruthless. The Cowleys have won promotion from League Two before, and I think that is the perfect fit. Having said that, nothing would make me smile more than Sam Allardyce turning up at the Peninsula Stadium and Gary Neville watching on. That would really make my year.
What a scenario that is. Well, fingers crossed. If we jump up to the Championship now with Barnsley, it's been just over a week since Gerhard Struber left for the New York Red Bulls. Again, we're just going to run through the odds for you. Nothing has really changed too much. We've still got Darren Moore, the Doncaster boss, as the odds-on favourite. Hannes Wolf, who's in charge of the Germany under-18s, he's only just got that job, is 4-1. Eddie Howe's still there, 8-1. Marcus Skop at 12-1. Cowley features again in this at 12-1. And we've also got Alexander Zorniger hovering around the 10-1 mark. Now, this is a guy, I did an article on the site, check it out. He's managed Leipzig, Stuttgart and Brøndby as well. He's previously managed Timo Werner, who he had a few spats with, and Pukki as well, who's credited the boss with transforming his mentality and thus his career. He's got a radical style of play, very aggressive, very attacking. It's sort of picture an extreme style of gegenpressing. He would be absolutely fascinating. Whether he'd come to the Championship, I'm not too sure, but if he wants a foot into English football, we've seen other managers come over from Germany and thrive. But is this market, with the history of Barnsley in mind and what happened last year, is it simply a case of waiting around for 6 weeks, fans speculating who's getting the job, and then some completely random name comes in out of nowhere and is appointed?
I mean, if you look at the history of Barnsley in recent years, that's certainly what happens. I'd like to think... I think I would have said this at the same time last year when they sacked Daniel Stendel, is that they need to act fast, otherwise they're going to get relegated. And then Struber came in and completely proved that wrong. So I think they'll maybe be looking to make sure it's the right appointment rather than a rushed appointment. Having said that, their start to this season hasn't been good at all, and they're in real danger of getting relegated this season, this early on. So I think they need to be a bit hastier this time around, and I hope they'd get a manager in within the next couple of weeks at least. There's a lot of good names in there. I like the name you just mentioned there. Gegenpressing sounds exciting for the Championship. I've got a question for you, Jack. Do you think the Cowleys are more likely to get the Salford job or the Barnsley job?
My first reaction about a week ago probably would have been Barnsley. I'm surprised that their odds are not shorter in that market, but you'd think that would have happened by now. It hasn't. Salford, I wouldn't have thought they would have dropped down a couple of divisions, but given the ambition Salford have and the co-owners, the names behind it, I think they could be tempted. I don't know if they still live up north. I'm not too sure, but if they are, I mean, it's not too far from where they would have been based before. But I think I just want to see them back. I love them, both of them. I think they're absolutely fascinating. I think they have great passion, determination. They can really rev up a fan base. And I think it could be exciting times if they were to be appointed at Salford. But we'll see. I don't know if they sort of fit the mould for Barnsley's owners, given who they've appointed in the past. But again, I think they do a great job. And they did at Huddersfield before. So who's to say they couldn't do it again in Yorkshire?
I think it's a really interesting one because obviously Barnsley are now a Championship club and have been for the last 2 years. Salford are this club on the up. It's really interesting. Both clubs could conceivably be in League One next season, and if they're both in League One, you'd rather be in charge of Salford than Barnsley. So I think if the Cowleys look at it that way, they could well be on their way to Manchester and Salford.
Fantastic. Simon, you can catch him at Empty Seats on Twitter and also YouTube. He's got loads of great videos up on the EFL. Thanks for coming on again, mate.
Absolute pleasure, Jack. I'll see you next week.